These days, there's no one the right loves to hate more than Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's just constant attacks against her, and most of the time, it's just either disagreeing with her politically or even sort of unfairly attacking her intelligence or her looks or whatever. The sort of normal abuse that women have to endure every single day online. But a lot of the time, and increasingly, it goes into the area of actual threats, both against her life, the lives of the rest of the squad, but also particularly sexual threats as well. And normally it's like on billboards, online, the Border Patrol, their public forums, but sometimes it's in more official context. And take a look at this image. This apparently came at one of Senator Mitch McConnell's picnics. And you can see there, 7 young white men in Team Mitch t-shirts gathered around a distressed looking cardboard cutout of the representative, groping and kissing her. The caption reads, "Break me off a piece of that." And the person who wrote that said, "Future federal judges of America understand for context for that comment." In other images, those men at this picnic for Team Mitch are holding up big cutouts of the heads of Kavanaugh and Gorsuch as well. So you get an idea of what they think about that sort of influence on the judiciary. So they made a cutout of the representative, and they're kissing it, and they're groping it, and they're pointing at her genitals, because that's what politically active young Republicans apparently think is funny. She responded, of course, saying, "Hey, Senate Majority Leader, these young men look like they work for you. Just wanted to clarify, are you paying for young men to practice groping and choking members of Congress with your payroll, or is this just the standard culture of Team Mitch?" So she was right to call that out. I doubt that we're going to hear anything from him. Apparently, multiple journalists have already reached out to Mitch McConnell and his campaign, the organizers of that picnic, and they haven't heard anything back. I can't imagine why they would. His natural state is to stonewall. I have a feeling he will do that here as well. But yes, that was at the annual political picnic in McConnell's home state of Kentucky. Now understand, as horrific as that is, this is just the latest of this sort of threats. I alluded to it earlier, but back when we found out about that Facebook group that had thousands and thousands of members of Border Patrol, there were tons of horrifically racist comments, violent comments directed at members of Congress who might be visiting these facilities. But one set was in particular about AOC, and it was of a sexual nature. Perhaps the most disturbing post target her in particular. One includes a photo illustration of her engaged in oral sex at an immigrant detention center. Text accompanying the image reads, "Lucky illegal immigrant glory hole special starring AOC." And so they can't help but attack her, and they also can't help but make it a sexually violent sort of attack that she, simply by being a woman in US government, has to endure on a constant basis. And Mitch McConnell has no influence over what happens in these private Facebook groups in the Border Patrol, but he does have an influence over the people that come to his events, the people who wear his shirts and potentially are working for his campaign. He can make clear whether or not they've ever actually been employed by the campaign. He can make clear that people who do those sorts of things will never be allowed to work for him or other members of the Republicans in the Senate. He could do that if he wanted to. He's had like 48 hours, he's chosen not to do that. But to be fair, perhaps he's a little bit distracted by other scandals that he is involved in, and that also took place at that picnic, because at that picnic, and bear in mind, that picnic was happening the same day as the terror attacks. In images posted just a couple of hours after that first attack in El Paso, his Team Mitch Twitter account posted this: "The Grim Reaper of socialism at Fancy Farm today." So yes, it is bizarre that he would choose to call himself the Grim Reaper, but in this particular way, it's even worse. Because although you can't really see too close there, socialism is one of the things on a tombstone there, but it's not just that. It's also Amy McGrath, who's running against him for Kentucky Senate coming up in this cycle. So the Grim Reaper is apparently going to bury his political opponent just hours after political violence perpetrated by a hard right winger. So that is what Team Mitch thought was appropriate, both to have at the picnic and also to spread. Isn't it funny on Twitter to joke about killing and burying your political opponents? That's funny. Isn't it funny to have a cutout of AOC so that the degenerates that follow you can grope it and choke it? Isn't that funny? Isn't Mitch McConnell just a fun young guy? But that's what they did. Amy McGrath, rightfully concerned, she posted a comment saying, "It's symptomatic of what is wrong with our system. I'm fine with the ordinary rough and tumble of politics, but this strikes me as beyond the pale." Now, I'm sure, Mitch McConnell, he's ancient. He doesn't pay attention to any of this stuff. He's mostly just focused on making sure the Democrats don't accomplish anything and giving as much money to billionaires and corporations as possible. But look at what he is willing to allow along the way. Not just Trump's racism and all of that, but violent sexual threats against people in Congress with him. That's Mitch McConnell. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.